International E-Conference. I request Professor Dr. Gajinder Kumar Tyagi Sir to please give a warm welcome address to all the participants and guests.
Hello, is audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is audible.
Our honors, Professor Kothari, Professor Sen, my colleagues and faculty, and distinguished participants and dear students. I welcome you all to the 2 days AITC sponsored conference on decent and textiles. I also wish to thank Dr. Yamini Janji for selecting such an important topic for the ongoing conference. As you all know, the textile industry that includes fibers, yarn, and fabric complex, especially the garment sector, plays a crucial role in the economy and the social well-being of a country. It leads to enhanced industrialization and hence economy to grow and expand. Though many textile and apparel companies across the globe are adopting advanced technologies to achieve competitive edge. However, sustainability driven by consumer awareness and preference for sustainable and acceptable norms has become future reality and needs to act. Besides, the failure to implement innovations in the way garments are designed, made and marketed is also perceived as another hurdle to the growth of textile industry, both in developed and developing countries. As a result, the garment sector still represents a relatively low-tech production system. For the past few months, what India and the world has seen is unimaginable. The COVID-19 pandemic has posed a serious threat to the all sectors. However, from the economic point of view, a major concern is the future of textile industry. Though increasing adoption of advanced business intelligence solutions and data analytics, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality have become the indispensable components of garment sectors to help and guide business decisions. Significantly, however, the topic under reference is very complex and multi-faced and needs to be understood from the point of view of the cost, quality, and service. I sincerely hope that this conference will unchain various issues that need to be addressed in the area of textile and garment design and development. I wish you all an inspiring, informative, and successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the warm welcome and providing your gracious presence to join us today. Now, moving ahead, I would like to invite Dr. Yamini Jhanji, coordinator of International E-Conference, to set the tone and brief us about the conference proceedings.
Thank you, Guru. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible,
Yes,
clearly
you are
audible.
audible.
I, on behalf of Department of Fashion and Apparel Engineering and the entire TIT family, welcome all the dignitaries, the keynote speakers, retired Emeritus Professor Dr. V.K. Kothari, Professor Kushal Sen from IIT Delhi, Dr. Raj Kishore Nayak from Remet University, Vietnam, our worthy Director Sir, Professor Dr. G.K. Tyagi, Professor Dr. K.N. Chatterjee, Head of Fashion and Apparel Engineering Department, all the HODs, all reverend seniors, colleagues, and all the participants to the 2-day AICT sponsored International E-Conference entitled Recent Trends in Textiles, a paradigm for innovative and sustainable innovative fibers, yarns, fabric, and garment production, processing, and designing aspects. The highlights of the conference include keynote address by veterans from textile and fashion arena, namely Professor V.K. Kothari, Professor Kushal Sen, and Professor Dipti Gupta from IIT Delhi. Furthermore, international speakers Professor Dr. Parikshit Goswami from University of Huddersfield and Dr. Rajkishore Nayak from Remit University, Vietnam will be gracing the occasion by their esteemed presence. The forte of the program is the true symbolism of Pan India, with approximately 175 registrations of participants from different institutes of national and international repute. To name a few: IIT, NIFT, NIT, University of Otago, New Zealand, Kumar Guru College of Technology, Institute of Home Economics, Periyar University, Delhi Technological University, PSG College of Technology, Lovely Professional University, Government College of Engineering and Textile Technology, Sirampur, Banasthali Vidyapit, and last but not the least, Amity University. Nearly 120 participants will be presenting their research work related to traditional textiles, smart wearable technology, and other innovative and sustainable aspects of textile and fashion supply chain during the 2 days of the conference. It is expected that the conference will serve as a common holistic platform for academicians, industry professionals, and research scholars to share their innovative research work. The conference is anticipated to set new benchmarks for all researchers to explore avenues for further research and development activities. In my concluding remark, I would like to suggest: welcome the challenges, look for opportunities in every situation to learn and grow in wisdom, which is, of course, very apt in today's scenario, which is very difficult and uncertain COVID scenario. Thus, we wish this conference resonates with this concept of new normal, of staying home, accepting our everyday technological hassles, and yet again, against all odds, marching towards professional and interpersonal skill enhancement. Thanks for joining us and hoping the virtual program is a grand success with cooperation of each and every one of you. Thank you. Thanks a lot from my side. So without taking much of your time, I would like to invite our first keynote speaker, Professor Emeritus Professor Dr. V.K. Kothari.
Hello, good morning.
Sir, I'll be sharing a brief profile, and
Okay,
then you can start, sir.
right.
So we from textile world, uh, of course, we have looked up to Kothari sir as our role icon, as our role model in textiles. He is a renowned, reputed name. So Professor Kothari is retired emeritus professor from IIT Delhi. He is an academician and researcher par excellence with meritorious academic and professional credentials. Professor Kothari completed his BTech degree in 1971 from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, with distinction, and was conferred with Institute Silver Medal. Professor Kothari did his MSc in Textile Technology from University of Manchester in 1973, and thereafter PhD from University of Leeds in 1977. Professor Kothari has a vast academic experience of 42 years. He started his career as lecturer at IIT Delhi and served the role of for 3 years, as assistant professor for 10 years, and as professor for 4 long years. Further, he served the role of emeritus professor for nearly 6 years. Professor Kothari's area of specialization include testing and quality management, non-woven fabrics, technical textiles, and clothing comfort. He served as principal and co-investigator in various projects like investigators in development of clothing for extreme clothing environment in 2013, industrial fabric, comfort characteristics of extreme climate association for defense personnel by DRDO in 2011, development of methods for measuring yarn and fabric hairiness by image processing in 2009, development of natural fibers based composites for automotive applications. Apart from consultancy projects, Professor Kothari has been actively involved in training programs and has served as a coordinator in various international conferences and as joint coordinator as in several other programs. Professor Kothari has authored several chapters in books like Role of Fiber Friction in Staple Fiber Processing, in a book Friction in Textile Materials, Air Filtration, and there are just innumerous number of publications in journals of national and international repute. May I now hand over the mic and dice to Professor Dr. Kothari to grace the occasion with his unique presence and enlighten us with his talk.
Good
Sir.
morning to everybody. Can everybody hear me all right? Am I audible all
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. We are going to talk about the importance of innovations. Innovations are important in all areas of technology, but much so in the areas of textiles and clothing because of the ever-changing demand for newness in the materials, in the products which are produced by the textile and the apparel industry. So we're going to look at a few aspects which are important for the prosperity and the growth of the textile and apparel industry in this particular presentation. Yamini, can you project the
Sir,
slide?
I have started it. Is it visible?
It's not, let me see if I can see it. Okay,
Yes, it is visible.
yes, I can see it now. So if we really start looking at the manufacturing and the next slide, manufacturing, which is a transformation of the materials into the useful products, is no longer a major source of prosperity in the developed economies. Their last few, can we really have the slide? Next slide, please. Hello? Next slide. The person who is really handling the slides, can you really change the slide? Okay. As soon as I really go through a slide, you can really change it to the next, or when I say next slide, you can really change the slide. Okay. In the last few years, if we really look at, there has been intense innovation activity in the areas of textiles and clothing, with the convergence and the close cooperation between the different fields like electronics, information technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, and so on and so forth. So we will be seeing some of the aspects of the increasing importance of innovation in this presentation, and also look at what are the areas where most of the activity is taking place. Before we start with the main sort of topic regarding the innovations in textiles, let's really first understand what innovation is. So if we really look at the innovation in the next slide, innovation basically means bringing in new method, ideas, or make changes which result in significant improvements and new products and processes. So basic idea about the innovation. Can we really have the next slide? Okay, good. is to bring in ideas, methods, changes which could really result in new products and processes. We would really look at some of the things which have been said about the innovation. So if we have the next one, innovation has moved from the good idea to an imperative. Uh, Next one, uh, just as the energy is the basis of the life itself, and the ideas are source of innovation, so as the innovation vital spark for the human change, improvement, and the progress. The future belongs to the people who can see possibilities before they become reality or become commonplace. We can really talk about innovation further. In terms of innovation is a cumulative process drawing upon the current knowledge and creating new knowledge. We can also look at the innovation as being seen as a process starting from the radical technical changes and moving on to the more diffused and everyday use technologies. Innovations transforms the new ideas into efficient production processes and attractive products. So these were few things which were being said about the innovation. Innovation therefore would involve uh, the inspiration, that is the idea should come, the necessity of that, the should really be neat, should be original, should really be valuable, should be applicable, timely, intelligent, outstanding, and novel. So there is a good mixture of the contributing factor which would really lead to something which is useful and would really make the process more efficient and create new products. If we really now look at the trend which involve trend of innovation which really developed in the West, essentially due to the complex shifts in the lifestyle and the awareness, based on the constant demand for the newness in the textile product. This is what I was saying earlier. That is, because of the changes which have occurred, because of the prosperities which really came in some of the countries, there were a constant demand of new product, and therefore the companies were forced to really bring in new ideas and develop new products. We really look at the innovation in design, uh, fashion, high-tech fibers and fabrics, new products, and the knowledge-based product differentiation and specialization are the routes the West is taking today, and we would be forced to take in future. This is becoming critical for most of the textile and the clothing companies who want to really do well in the areas of their businesses in order to survive as well as prosper. So if we now try to look at why innovation is so crucial for success, if we really look at some of the innovative companies, they would be generating major segment of their revenue from the products designed within the last 3 to 5 years. Companies are increasingly uh, need new products and innovative new areas to work in order to succeed in the new and the fast changing business environment. Now, it has become imperative for these companies who really want to keep ahead of the rest of the companies in order to progress, that they would constantly look at the new products and innovate to bring in the technologies and the products which would really differentiate them in the market and would really give them good profit. On the other hand, if you really look at the current Indian scenario, the if you look at the Indian scenario in the next slide, uh, despite considerable amount of global exposure, technological modernization and the diversification which has taken place in the Indian industry, uh, most of the companies in India continues to believe in the set pattern of working. The focus is more or less on the products which are cost effective and are basic commodity products which could really be marketed in bulk. So we are really our basic commodity product producers at the most competitive prices, and therefore uh, the mindset has not yet moved towards uh, major expenditure as well as major emphasis on the innovative products. We can really look at some of the other observations in the next slide. The classical strength of the textile and the clothing industry, based on the cheaper cost of production, is already being challenged in the many products. So if we try to look at the many of the textile and the clothing items, internationally we are already moving out of these areas. Next slide, if you really look at uh, uh, to achieve sustainable advantage, manufacturing efficiency must really be coupled with innovative new product. The lowest cost of production really is not sustainable because there would be other countries which could really be uh, able to produce the same products at a much lesser cost. So efficient production technologies must really be leveraged with the innovative new products. The new kind of textile process characteristics that make them useful in numerous formerly unexpected areas really has helped and has really generated the importance of innovation further, because the textiles are now being applied in many of the areas where other materials were being used. Therefore, we should really look at the innovation both in terms of materials, processes, and the product design, the design of the final product, and the way it is marketed in a way which would allow us to really take advantage of this application of these products in the new areas. So let's really look at what really we are saying about this. Uh, Next one, the ever increasing application of the textile materials in technical textile sector has been the driving force behind innovation in many of the textile technology area, leading to the development of functional materials and high performance fibers, functional finishes, yarns, and fabrics. We are now moving towards using textile materials not only for the apparels and home textiles, but are moving towards using them for a large number of uh, other areas. And some of the examples of these areas are given in the next slide. Basically, these are the multiple areas of uh, technical textiles where the performance is the main criteria of a product, and therefore engineering of the product becomes important, right selection of the material, and if some materials are not available, the development of these materials or modifications become extremely important. Um, so is the technologies which really could convert them into the useful products which we require for many of the applications becomes extremely important to really look at. Now, if we really look at the research trends and the long-term trends which are happening in the textile and the clothing industry, uh, our research priorities are being dictated by the following factors. We are really moving from the commodity to the specialty materials, and we are really looking at the textiles as the materials of choice. Uh, New specialty fibers and the fabrics are becoming increasingly important. Functionalization of textiles are taking place in order to incorporate newer properties in the textile materials. Use of bioengineering and biocomposites are increasingly occurring. We also want to use the textile products for enhancing the human performance. We are really looking at the new products in the many areas of technical textiles. Smart materials are being developed, the smart textiles and the smart products, which could really make the life more useful as well as better, are being developed. So long-term trends are bringing in something which is going to not only look at the existing products, but try to make special products for bringing in some of the uh, requirements of the newer areas of uses, as well as bringing in the change in the mindset of the people regarding the uh, type of comfort as well as the performance which could really be given by these new products. So innovation and the convergence of various technologies is becoming important. The last few years have really seen intense innovative activities in the areas of textiles with the convergence and the close cooperation between different technologies. So we are really looking at the textile technology cooperating with electronics, information technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, plasma technology, and so on and so forth. And the developments in each of these technology areas is really fueling the development in the textile and the clothing areas, which allows us to really produce new products which could really be extremely important for the well-being as well as the progress of the companies. We'll now try to look at what are the areas in which major activities are really taking place. The challenges obviously is the production of the fabrics, which could really give multifunctionalities. So if we really want some of the newer demands on the textiles and the garments we are using, we would have to develop technologies as well as incorporate them in the textiles and the clothing. Some of the things which are happening in the finishing innovation areas are the development of the self-cleaning and the super hydrophobicity type of materials. Next one is antimicrobial properties are being incorporated in many of the products um, because of the health and hygiene consciousness. We are also looking at the order-free properties in the textile products, and the developments and the research is occurring in order to develop such textile products. And the next one is we are also looking at the we are really looking at the order-free materials. We are really also looking at the next one. If we really look at health promoting properties are even being sought in or through the textile materials, and there are works going on. These are just a few examples of the areas in which finishing could really help, but there are numerous other areas of finishing which could really give new properties to the textile materials. The next one we'd like to look at is the fiber development. And in the fiber development, new functionalities are being demanded. And these are being, again, some examples are developing fibers which could really manage moisture in the fabrics, develop anti-static fibers to take care of the static problems, develop the biodegradable fibers, which is becoming extremely important because of the environmental concerns, elastomeric fibers to really give the good safe fitting, microcreated fibers again to really enhance the sort of spread of the moisture or the sweat from the clothing. And we are also looking at the bi-component, multi-component fibers to really incorporate different properties in the fibers. If you really look at some other examples of areas where a lot of activities are occurring, are the high performance fibers, where the performance is being increased with reference to the strength, modulus, temperature resistance, and the chemical resistance of these fibers. And these properties and functionalities are extremely important in many technical applications, such as the anti-ballistic capabilities of the textile apparels, the industrial protective clothing, the hot gas filtration area in the industry, the structural composites for the aircraft and the buses, high pressure and automotive hoses, ropes and specialty tire cords, etc., etc. These are just a few examples which I've just tried to list. So there's again intense activity regarding the fibers. One of the areas in which the fibers are moving is towards the finer and finer fibers. Now, as we really increase the surface area of a fiber relative to their volume, the many new characteristics could really be added in the products which we are able to manufacture from them, and these products could really be extremely useful in the areas like filtration, wound dressing, tissue engineering, nanocomposite, drug delivery systems, and so on and so forth. So nanofibers is one of the areas where a number of people are working and developing new products. Now, electrospinning is one of the important technology for development of these extremely fine fibers. So there's just taken one example, but there are many other examples where finer fibers are being useful, be it in the melt spun non-woven fabric, be it in the sort of microfibers for soft and spatial field fabrics. So fineness is one of the areas where number of activities have taken place and the innovations are constantly occurring. Now, in the product development areas, it's a little difficult to really give just one example, but the example which I have chosen is the spacer fabrics, uh, because these three-dimensional fabrics um, can offer many multifunctional benefits for a variety of market applications, such as in furniture, automotive seats, the active wears, the healthcare uses, the military uses. So we are really looking at trying to develop a three-dimensional fabric which could really entrap large amount of air, and the air volume is much larger as comparison to the fibers. It gives a very good compressional characteristics since it really incorporates a lot of air. So it really becomes extremely good fabric for furnitures, beddings, etc., where it would feel much more comfortable because of the large amount of air underneath the seat or the bed. Similarly, it gives good cushioning effect. So a large number of applications have been developed using this particular technology of producing spacer fabrics. These can be produced by both weft knitting and the warp knitting processes. And many three-dimensional structures have really also been developed, which could really be extremely useful in a number of technical applications. So next, we really look at the smart textiles, because this is another area where a lot of activity is occurring place and a lot of innovative materials are being brought in. If we look at some of the examples, which are the examples of materials which could really change shape due to stimulus, store and release energy, that is heat, uh, could really integrate electronics and sensors into the garments or the textile products, change color due to the stimulus, um, change or convert light into electricity, just to name a few of the smart uh, textile products which are being developed. And these obviously leads to development of the new apparels and the new applications of these materials. Again, we're again going to take one or two examples. Let's look at the shape-changing textiles, fibers, yarns, and fabrics which can really expand or contract reversibly with the small changes in the environment, be it the change in the temperature, chemical or the light activated materials or the electric field changes, which could really produce changes which could be usefully utilized to really either increase the permeability or decrease the permeability, improve the comfort or decrease the sort of transmission characteristics, and so on and so forth. So there are a number of things which could really be done, and these materials could really be extremely useful. Then we really look at the next one is uh, the phase change materials, and these could really are basically thermoregulated textiles could really be developed. These textiles could really store and release heat energy as required, because if you really know that if some solid materials really melts, it will store energy, and once this molten material really solidifies again, it could really release energy, and this could really be used extremely effectively in sort of preventing the sudden uh, changes in the temperature, or the thermal shocks could really be avoided in many of the applications. One of the applications is as the pilots are being ejected from the aircraft, uh, the extreme cold outside could really harm the body. So if we can really utilize some of the things like the phase change materials there in the clothing, you could really prevent the certain sudden changes in the or the temperature shocks which are occurring. Then the intense other activity which is occurring in the smart textile arena is the wearable electronics. Uh, the wearable electronics could act as the ideal interface between the body and the environment, and it could really sort of by incorporating sensors or the motherboards on in the clothing system, one can really sort of monitor various things, be it the life functions or the body functions to communication devices and so on and so forth. So these devices in the apparels would really be extremely useful in many of the areas. Next, we try to see what is happening. Next one. Next. Okay. So we are really looking at the area which is becoming increasingly important after the weaving and the knitting areas, which are basically based on the yarn conversion into the fabric, but converting fibers into the yarns first and then converting them by systematically arranging these yarns into a network to produce knitted or the woven fabric is extremely expensive process, and therefore the nonwovens have really made rapid inroads into various areas of technical textiles. Not only the production process has been simplified, because in the nonwovens we directly convert fibers into fabrics, so the production process is extremely fast and the products become cheap. But that is not the only advantage of nonwovens. We also really end up with the type of properties which are very difficult to achieve with the woven and the knitted fabric. So the low cost is one advantage of nonwovens, but there are major advantages in terms of the type of characteristics which are being offered by the nonwoven products. Like the filtration characteristics are extremely good. The barrier properties are extremely good. So one has many areas where there are no sort of equivalent woven or the knitted or other structures, yarn-based structures, which could really compete with the non-wovens. And on the top of it, if we are really able to produce at the lower cost, this gives us a major sort of advantage. So they are becoming increasingly popular. However, if we really look at the areas of apparels, the non-wovens have not really made inroads so far. And probably that would be a next area which should really be looked at because new fibers are available, new fabrication technologies have been developed, and new finishing methods and technologies are being experimented with. And this would probably make the fabrics made out of non-wovens um, a suitable candidate for many of the apparel areas, which would really reduce the cost of the apparels. So this is an area which is currently being looked at, and probably it would really become important in the days to come. Now, if we just have been able to look at what innovation really means, and a few examples related to the innovations in the areas of the finishing, in the areas of fiber development, in the areas of product development, and in the areas of non-wovens technologies and the non-woven uh, areas. Just try to do a little bit of summing up. If we try to do some conclusions from whatever we have really seen in this particular presentation, a number of developments are taking place in the textile processing area to really meet the new customer expectations of health and hygiene, uh, energy requirement, as well as the environmental considerations. Uh, in an industry where innovation has become the only means of survival, almost all the major companies are now looking at the uh, looking at the research and development regarding the raw materials and the new products which could really be developed, and are looking at some of these new applications. Uh, the new next one, the new and the demanding applications of textile in the areas of diverse technical applications will also fuel the further new product and the process development in future as well. Development of other disciplines such as electronics, biotechnology, nanotechnology, just to name a few, gives us the further boost and the new possibilities for the development of the new textile products. Innovations will be the key for the success and the growth of the textile and the clothing companies. In Indian textiles, if the Indian textiles and the clothing companies want to survive as well as have a sustainable future, they must really be investing a lot of their time and the money in developing new uh, uh, new products and the processes. So for the survival of the companies would really be dependent on how effectively they can really utilize the time and resources to uh, bring in new ideas and innovate, because low cost production cannot really be sustained forever in developing economies as well. These were just few of the things which I wanted to talk in this particular presentation, and maybe we can really take a few questions if there are any. Hello, is there somebody?
Yes, sir.
But
Yes,
if
sir.
there are any
Yes, sir,
maybe.
sir. Yes, sir. We can take up some questions. If there are some questions from any of the participants, they can write in the chat box, and I can take some of the questions. So, participants, if you are interested to ask something, you are free to write in the chat box. Sir, as of now, there are no questions, so maybe we'll carry on further. We'll proceed further, and
Okay,
after the second keynote address, we can have the questions from both the keynote speakers together.
okay, fine.
Okay, sir. So, okay, heartiest thanks and deep sense of gratitude, sir, for your comprehensive talk on innovative approaches in textiles. May I now request our second keynote speaker of the day, Professor Dr. Kushal Sen from IIT Delhi, to take over. So, sir, I would like to give a brief introduction before you start. शेयर करनी है सर करें कुशल से ये शेयर करता हूँ So, our next keynote speaker for the day is Professor Dr. Kushal Sen. Professor Dr. Kushal Sen is presently professor in Department of Textile Technology, IIT Delhi. Professor Kushal Sen obtained his BTech degree in textile chemistry in 1977 and his PhD degree in 1981, both from IIT Delhi. He joined the Department of Textile Technology, IIT Delhi, as a faculty in 1981 and is currently a professor in the same department. His area of specialization include textile chemical processing, texturizing, structure property analysis, and geotechnical textiles. His current areas of research include textile chemical processing, microencapsulation, and electrically conductive textiles. He has keen interest in educational technology. He has made several films on textile chemical processing for handloom workers and has produced video conferences for the undergraduate and postgraduate textile courses. He initiated the educational transmission of video programs in IIT Delhi in 2001, which resulted in a full-fledged 24-hour educational channel, Eklavya. The video courses are currently run under Swayam Prabha channels. Since 2004, he is also the IIT Delhi coordinator of NPTEL, a project, and currently looks after the MOOC programs under Swayam. On the administrative front at IIT Delhi, he has been the Dean, Alumni Affairs and International Programs, Dean Faculty, Head of Department of Textile Technology, and Head in Educational technology. He has been a member board of Governors IIT Delhi. With this, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Kushal Sen to grace the occasion and start with his keynote address.
Good morning to all of you. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I will try to do the thing as I'll share my presentation. I hope it is visible to you.
Yes, sir.
It's visible? All right. Okay. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the online education. Some challenges and opportunities that we have all faced. These challenges in the last 5 or 6 months, and it has almost made the whole effort which was being put in by the whole country, the Ministry of Education, which is now called the Ministry of Education, earlier it was called the MHRD, has actually borne fruits. So all those work that were done have become more relevant in today's situation. So if we look at the COVID, it in some sense has forced all of us to consider various types of options that are available to communicate with our students, with the learner, with each other. But for example, we are meeting today online for this conference, and I'm happy to be part of this conference. Whatever we thought maybe, let's say, 1 year back as very difficult is actually become possible, and almost everyone is enjoying it.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, your PPT is not visible. Sorry to interrupt in between. Can you
not
please share
visible?
it
Let me
once?
just,
Yes,
let
sir.
me just
Sir,
see.
please share it once, sir. Sir, in the lower tab, there is present now button. You can click on that button and your window, your current window or the tab will open. That will help you in sharing the PPT.
Right, right. Is it visible now?
No, sir, it is not visible. मेरे को कैसे दिखेगी? मेरे को
Sir, please
Just
in the bottom of the window, and then it will ask you to choose the screen.
I think the problem is you should, as an organizer, should allow me to share. I think I'm not able to click on the share button. So maybe the organizer had not allowed. So you allow the participant also to share, then probably this will be possible. In your options also it should be there.
Sir, I think it has been enabled. Technical team, please look into the matter. Poonam ma'am, please look.
And actually, every participant in this meeting can share their screen. In Google Meet, everyone can present their screen. So there are no rights like organizer have to give, but yes, he need to present from his own computer, own system.
I know I'm trying to present, but the share button is visible, but it does not pick up. That's the only thing which I was saying. Otherwise, The cancel button.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, when you click on the present now button, after a pop-up shows on
I
your
know the pop-up comes. This says share or cancel.
Yes, sir.
there is a
So
small
I
window
am
of your
trying
screen.
to press the share, but the share is not actually coming the way it should be.
Please
Coming.
click
It
on
just
the screen you are seeing in that pop-up. There is option share.
let me reconnect. Let me reconnect.
Okay, sir.
I just reconnect.
Uh, question select and question field. Okay, by the
Yeah,
time.
minimum there could be a technical or like temporary issues like this. Then he just need to log in again. He'll be able to present his screen.
Yeah, he is doing that, ma'am. He is doing that. But otherwise, from your side, it has been enabled.
No, it is enabled for everyone. Everyone can present their screen.
Okay, okay.
Anji, he is presenting his screen, ma'am, now.
ये उनका आ रहा है. Sir, your screen is visible to us now. If you start presenting, if you open your PPT, I think it will be visible to us. You are presenting to everyone. It has started appearing on the screen. Sir, am I audible?
Sir, now you can open your presentation in your system, and because your screen is visible, we can see your screen.
मैं क्वेश्चंस पूछ लेती हूँ तूने इसी से कर लो ये लो ठीक है ये लो कर लो कॉल आ तो गए सर
Hello.
Yes, sir. Sir, your screen was being shared here. If you share your PPT, I think it will be visible.
Is it visible now?
Sir, not yet, sir.
Not now.
Sir,
He have to present again, as he had left. No? Sir, please present again your screen.
Sir, you can share the screen once again. Sir, a technical team member is calling you, so he will assist you in that. आप कर रहे हो कॉल? शिखा को उनको दिया फिर अब इन्होंने अपनी दी नहीं थी पीपीटी मैं कहूँ क्वेश्चंस पूछ लो
Sir, like you earlier presented your screen when you click on present now, are you able to see these options present now on your screen?
I see this, but the problem is the button actually is not active. You know, the cancel button is active, but the other button is not active. Why is that?
Excuse me, sir. Can somebody present instead of sir?
Sir, 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 you can mail me the presentation. Meanwhile, we can take up some questions from Kothari, sir. In the meanwhile,
Hello.
you can mail
Yeah,
me your.
yeah, I can do that. I'll do
Yes,
that.
sir. Yes, sir. So meanwhile, we'll take up some questions from Professor
Okay,
Kothari.
okay,
You can mail me.
okay,
I'll share the presentation for you, sir.
okay.
Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. We'll be ready with the keynote address from Professor Kushal Sen, sir. So, Kothari, sir, there are few questions from our participants. I would like to take up some of the questions. Sir, can I do it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Sir, one of the participant has this question that how biotechnology can be linked with fabrics. How
Mhm.
biotechnology can be linked with fabrics.
Biotechnology is being used for processing many things, and also really you have to understand the biotechnology in order to really incorporate or have compatible textiles with the human body. So biotechnology would really play a very crucial role in uh, sort of processing or finishing of the fabrics to give it certain characteristics which are not possible otherwise, and also really help in the sort of issues which are related to the compatibility of the textile materials with the human body. Maybe somebody else can throw a little more light on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. We have another question from one of the participants that how India can take advantage of COVID-19. What is your situation? What is your suggestion in the present context as far as the textile industry is concerned?
I think the certain textile items, but so advantage taking, people really talk about the sort of producing a lot of masks, coveralls, and other things. But according to me, that is not the long-term solution, because this may be useful for next 6 months or so, but it may not really be a innovation-driven new product which could really be incorporated. What we really need to look at is the long-term future of the textile industry, and see how we can really keep a step ahead of the others in trying to bring in something new. And the healthcare will be one of the areas where we should really look at more closely, because people are going to spend much more on the health and hygiene aspect now in order to live properly.
Hello.
So maybe if somebody can really bring in
Hi.
material, hello, if somebody can really bring in new innovations in types of products which can really promote the health, which could really be useful in hygiene, probably if we can really innovate to make biodegradable materials more widespread, because one of the things which is happening is that increasing use of medical textiles is generating environmental issues, generating a lot of medical waste, which is very difficult to really dispose of safely. So it is now the new things if we can really bring in, which could really solve the issues which we have, concerns which we have in terms of environment, in terms of sustainability. I think those are the areas to look at.
Okay, sir. Thank you. There is one more question. Can we take up that question also?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Sir, so one of the participant has this question that what about antiviral protective textile products for healthcare applications that can use biopolymers?
Uh, antiviral products, if they can really be developed, it will be extremely useful because of the current COVID situation and the awareness regarding the viruses. But I think not all viruses are harmful. But again, I think we really should understand that you really uh, are, you should not really be trying to sort of eliminate everything from the earth. But if you can really have antiviral finish, which many of the masks are claiming to be having, it would really be useful a product and could really allow us to breathe normally or more easily in the mask. The respirators would really become a little more sort of comfortable to wear for a longer period of time. So it would be extremely useful, and a lot of attempts are being made. I think many claims have also been made, but the way the size of virus is, um, it becomes extremely difficult to really filter out something which is less than 1 micron in size. So it is very difficult to 0.1 micron or less becomes an extremely difficult thing to physically filter out. But chemical finishing, if they could really be effectively developed and applied, it would be useful. But I'm not really, a lot of claims have been made regarding the antiviral finishes, but maybe somebody from the finishing area should really look at it more closely and see whether they are really going to work against viruses.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. We can take some of the questions at the end of the session. I think Kushal Sen sir is ready with his presentation. So, sir, uh, can we go ahead with your presentation? Sir, please unmute yourself. Kushal Sen sir, please unmute your mic.
Now, is it okay?
Yes, sir. Sir, the mic has been unmuted.
And you can now
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
visible also.
Yes, sir.
Good. So that there we start. Now what we do is there is some audio issue coming because of.
I would request technical team to please look into the matter.
I think Kushal Sen sir have logged into 2 devices. So he have to mute one of his device. It is because echo, that's why he is logging into 2 devices. In one of his devices, you have to log.
Is it becoming better now?
Yes, sir. All okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now it's okay.
All right. So there we are. So what happens is sometimes, as we say, everything is not plug and play, but that's what actually happens. So we are now ready to go to the challenges that we are looking at. The challenge, therefore, is this. So we had the challenges and opportunities also, but sometimes these things have to be handled. So sorry about this delay. But this opportunity is a very interesting opportunity. I hope you can see the change in slide as well. Are you able to see the change?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay. That's fine. That means everything is now going on. So the relevance of this today's meeting, as well as the topic that I am covering, becomes much more, because if you say a lot of people are looking at the pandemic is never going to be absolutely over, so we may not be able to actually very soon go back to classes the way we are supposed to be doing generally. And some people are looking at possibility at 2020 things may happen. But what it has done to us is a very new opportunity, which is interesting to us. And that is what we have started using also. So in some sense, this is a blessing in disguise. The teachers are not rejecting the online education outright. There was a time when we had started this process of working on the online education and certification. A lot of speculations were there as to whether this is going to be ever successful, whether it will be equal to the face-to-face teaching or not. But today, because we are supposed to do it, so we have now found that there is a possibility that we can do it better, as much better as possible. The learner community also is becoming more and more receptive to this method of teaching, and that's how the life becomes much better. Limitations of infrastructure have also been brought out, because otherwise we thought we are fully developed as an institute or a college, and certainly we now know, or as an individual, and we have a lot of resources, and we find the resources not as good as we would thought. So the administration now is also seized of the need, and therefore things are going to only improve. From the technology point of view, whatever difficulty that we've had, it is because of our own ignorances, but technology does not really limit us to share views, learn lessons, and what have you in mind. So this, as they say, is a new normal, and this most probably in the next semester and next to next semester, and probably in the future semester, we are going to be following at least, if not whole, part of this process, because we might find it very useful. So this is what we call as the WFH, which is work from home. It is not just for the education, but for the industry, the IT industry, of course, was very, very happy to use this possibility. Today is 18th September. Every day is an important day. I just picked up this particular person called the Edwin Patterson Macmillan. He had got a Nobel in 1951 for a discovery of an element 93, was beyond Uranus. So the first element which was detected was called uranium, and this was called neptunium. So various kinds of things that we can understand which relate to development, innovation, and inventions. So today is one of those days where we are all there to see how conferences can be done online, and actually we learn and enjoy. So my topic said that challenges and opportunity. I think I'm reversing the order. I'll talk about the opportunities first, and then we talk about challenges, and if there are any solutions that we can think of. I hope that would make sense for you. The interesting thing about the opportunity is that people were always talking as to how many people will be attending. Considering the text messages that we saw on the sidebar, we know how to communicate even when our mics are muted, so things can happen. We have taken examinations in the last few months, and that also has been a challenge which has been met by a lot of people. It also is very interesting to note that every time anybody leaves, we know the name of the person who's leaving the meeting, which is absolutely interesting. Not that we are supposed to take any action on that, but that's what this system allows. So the agenda for today I am considering is the Indian experiment, the resources that are currently available for people to use, for faculty and the students to use, the concept of open source, which is the most important thing, which has become now very important in the COVID times and later also, the pedagogy of teaching, where now we can call it the e-pedagogy, the opportunity that gives us to do things which are differently to be done, but could be as effective as the teaching always has been effective. Challenges, of course, we will consider in delivery and evaluation, and infrastructural requirements that we may need to have. So let's first look at the e-resources. This environment that we call as the e-environment has the possibility of what we call a storage and retrieval. You can store the whatever you're saying, whatever, for example, I have noticed that our talks are being recorded. That would mean that it can be retrieved also. So whatever somebody may have missed for whatever reason, whenever there is time, you can bring it back and watch it. See, use, do whatever you can. Gives us a sense of a live dynamic experience, because whatever has been recorded, it would appear as if you were present in the meeting, you were present in the class. Increases reach, cuts down boundaries of time and space. For example, this conference itself is saying that the people are from all over India actually simultaneously attending the conference, and certainly will be benefited by the retrieval process as well. It has a very high potential to make it learner-centric. The person who is a learner, for example, a student, can anytime ask a question, and one may have to modify either the text or the content. The more the questions come, it will become more and more learner-centric rather than a teacher-centric. It retains contextuality, because if the questions, as they say, if the questions are good, the answers are also very good. So who asks the question? If somebody who is living in a metropolitan city is asking a question about the same kind of situation versus somebody who is living in a remote area or let's say a rural area, the contexts are different. The same question could have different contexts and different meanings. And if all of that is shared also with everyone, people learn quite a lot. So what do we have? We have e-resources available. We have generally a good amount of hardware available as we are connected, and the connectivity is also available. Therefore, the possibility of conversing, collaborating in this e-environment is absolutely possible. People talking about Digital India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and these are all some of the examples which obviously become important. One of the resources from we are talking about the teaching learning is the called NPTEL. I think most of us are familiar with that. Almost all kinds of courses are available on this in various forms, video and web or a text-based information also. And this is available. If somebody wants to learn, there's no issue. One doesn't have to be live all the time. The outreach, as we talked about, this particular material that has been generated and this websites that are available is being used almost everywhere across India. Throughout the last 1 decade, this has only increased in number. That means if we create any material today, not only it can be changed anytime that you want, it will be available to each and every one. Of course, you want to do restrictions, you can do restrictions, but if you don't want any restrictions, almost everybody can have it. NPTEL, for example, is no restrictions. In this conference, there is a restriction. Only such people who are registered are listening to us. But tomorrow, if somebody wants to share the recorded version, it will be available. If you don't want to share, then it may not be available. But let's say we always want to share. The reach is important. The kind of material that is generated in India under these resources, if you don't restrict, is available to the whole world. The greenest part is India in this map, for example, but the lighter green also means there are users across the globe of the content that we generate here. That means if you do a good job, obviously a lot of people would appreciate and would understand that you are one of the resource persons, you are one of the experts in the area in which things are happening. Today, for example, maybe 50,000 hours of material is available, subtitles are available, text transcriptions are available. All that is a resource which can be used by anyone. Now, one word about the open source learning. People talk about open source software, which can be taken, downloaded, modified, and converted to a new type of a software. Similarly, today there's open source learning. We have been using this kind of material in different ways, but Now it can be used in much more sophisticated way and much more efficient way. So it's quite possible that somebody generates, let's say, the core material, which is represented here in the blue circle. Somebody asks questions which can also be around the same core material. If some question has been asked today, they can be retained or could be included in the text, and this resource keeps generating. You can have user blogs, which is like color thing that you can think of. Then that means people can ask questions, people can answer themselves. You don't have the teacher to answer, don't need a teacher to answer. People can solve the problem themselves. And you must have obviously seen a lot of internet activities goes on wherever somebody asks a question. You find there are many solutions people are giving. And the outermost shell says that in case you want to use this material yourself, you can use it, modify it, as long as it is allowed to be done. So concept, strategies, core, FAQ, self-evaluation, additional references, collaborator. More than one teacher can present the course. Ownership of the teacher is not lost. For example, if I have generated the course, somebody can use this material and modify this and say, well, this is his or her material, and which is okay as long as it is allowed and does not infringe the copyright issues. So this particular resource, for example, facilitates this under what we call as a Creative Commons. I hope some of you may have heard that. So availability is there, different formats are there, texts are there. So one can actually use these kinds of models in communicating with the learner. Now this particular thing, the facilitation through the Creative Commons helps. It helps the content creator to use the content, modify, offer to their students based on their needs. So everything that has been converted or designed once is not a final thing. Anybody can change, everybody can change. So then people say, well, in education you want certification also. Is certification possible? So I think in last 3-4 months we have learned, but some experiments were already done before that. Yes, of course you miss sometimes. We're doing this e-conference. We sometimes miss out those physical proximities. Earlier I remember some kind of incidents. For example, some people, let's say, meet after about a gap of 20 years whenever they were together, maybe as a student, and then they meet at the end of 25 years and they may not be able to recognize each other. And the same kind of thing, have those kind of fun. Recognizing the other guy the other time may not have happened automatically, but it is also possible. Those kind of fun things are also possible in the online business. A precursor to a certification process which is called MOOCs. It's an online open course, like massive open online course is called the MOOCs. So theoretically, what it means is courses you teach on campus, courses, the way you start, they start on a certain date. Course duration could be fixed, whatever, semester, half a semester. You can give assignments, you can give quizzes, you can have discussions the way you have class discussions, and course also ends at a certain date, and also there is an exam at a certain date. All that happens online. So whatever we were doing in the other course, it is possible in this meeting. So live meetings, for example, today is a live meeting. Proctored exams can also be there to facilitate what we call a certification. So one of the programs that the under NPTEL was called the NOC, NPTEL Online Certification Program. You have centers across the country. Therefore, you could make sure that the right kind of candidates are doing right way, and they can give certificates which are e-verifiable by anyone, for example, an employer for that matter. So when you try to make such courses, there are certain things which are called building blocks. One has to be prepared to have them. A course instructor obviously is a building block. You may have teaching assistants who are assisting, because there are MOOCs, there may be 1,000 students actually taking a course one given point of time. And if there are questions to be answered, something like that, then there are tools which may have to be used. There is a team which happens and works behind the scene, and there has to be a platform and a partner in the working. So in general, if you want to run a course like this for your students or for the rest of the country or for the rest of the world for that matter, what meets the eye is that you announce that this is how the registration of the course will take place, the courses and schedules will be announced, which will be seen by everyone, the teacher, who is the teacher, who is the TA, and who are the other mentors. They may also be associated. Somebody from the industry may be a mentor for the same course. A proctored exam, dates, scores, certificate, all they are visible. The invisible, of course, is the building, course building and pedagogy as to how the teacher has decided to run the course. This may be different pedagogy than the earlier pedagogy which he was using in class, but then it may be different. But that is invisible to the outside world, but somebody is working, assigning the instructor, the TA, uploading videos, uploading assignments, uploading MCQs and auto evaluation systems, proctored exam, schedule, database management, and so on. Essentials, of course, to run any of these courses will be there should be students who should register. There have to be exams and evaluation and things, scores and feedback and blogs. They are very important and active component of any of these kinds of online teaching learning systems. MOOCs, or maybe our own specified class. For example, today, of course, we are doing a conference, but conference is different than a class. But all this is possible. Security and verification, that people should not tamper with your data. That's an essential part of it also. So Government of India, under the program called SWAYAM, has done various types of things, and today we are running on a Indianized, Indian developed software also. Initially it was designed by Microsoft, but now of course we have an Indian software, and the SWAYAM means some MOOCs courses as well as television channels also they run under that. A typical page on a course should appear like this. For example, a course may have a teacher, about the teacher, it may have something about the course, it would have some dates, it would have some outline for the course, and there may be a video somebody can run and then learn. So this is how a page can look like. One part which has only happened 6 months before, but if the journey of the Indian MOOCs experiment journey, if you look at it, is almost like a long journey starting as early as 2014, and the numbers have been rising. Currently, people, about more than 13-14 lakh people register for courses across the country. That means there is an acceptance. How does it happen? We will just work on that. Credit transfer also has become one of the motivations, because the UGC as well as the AICTE has said certain percentage of the curriculum need could be met by credit transfer through online processes, and that becomes an interesting thing for. So what we have discussed till now is what we call as an opportunity available. The tools available, the resources available, and the way to create the resource also is available. And I'm sure in the last 3-4 months you have felt it also. You have been also busy trying to create resources, your own resources, but for your own students. That's first priority. But tomorrow you may decide, well, my course can be taken in by more than the population that I have been addressing till now. So it's possible we can keep doing that. Now, challenges in the online delivery is what we will try to focus a little bit. So the pedagogy comes into play. Do we do the same thing as we're doing, or we have to do certain things differently, or how much differently? So someone said it in a cartoon, for example, that I'm taking innovative approach to teaching the semester. I'm using books. Earlier, maybe he was not. He was just using chalk and talk. We're so familiar with chalk and talk. Changing that itself becomes a difficult thing. Today, you may not say I'm using books. You will say I'm using e-resources. After all, what is the e-resource? It's something which otherwise also you were consulting various books before you could go to a lecture, to give a lecture. Today you will be consulting different e-resources and also producing another e-resource which will be helpful to your students. See, the Einstein wrote a very important thing once. He said, well, they said, I wonder how about the electron, which always is considered negative. The negative, positive, there is a perfect symmetry in physics. There is no reason whatsoever to prefer one to the other. But then why is the electron negative? So he says that I thought about it for a long time, and at last I could think it won the fight. That's it. What it actually means is accepts I don't know. That means something happened. As a teacher also, we know quite a lot of things, but there are certain things it's possible we don't know. How do we learn? Maybe the student has asked the question, therefore we make extra effort to learn, or we do research ourselves and learn. Did the apple fall on Newton's head? I mean, what's the teacher supposed to do? A teacher in a class is supposed to give direction as to in which direction a student can learn, because the course content is there. A particular direction has already been given and the faculty is guiding. Teacher is supposed to motivate the students to find answers to various questions and not just give answers. It's quite possible you have open-ended questions which you leave them. The student thinks. Will always happen. You see, when Newton had obviously done the gravitational law, what he had said was that there are two bodies, if there are in the universe, they are attracted to each other, and that force of attraction is something to do with the masses of their bodies and the distance in between them. But then when somebody asked the question, well, they can calculate this. Why do they attract at all? Why do they attract at all? He did not have the answer. He says, I don't have the answer why they attract. But I know how much the force will be there, which is called the gravitational force. This also is one of the examples where big people also say, well, I don't know. It's possible they don't know. Similarly, the example that we are trying to work out in the education also, various types of things that come up. Well, this cannot be done like this. Yes, of course, I know it cannot be. Then how do we do it? That is how we say the motivation comes. Motivation comes to the teacher also by looking at various types of people, various things people have been doing all along so that better results could come up. So we have a course content and we are supposed to say that we are covering the course. Some people say, well, uncover the course. That means you just show the light and let the student become in some way anxious to learn more. And that is what becomes a very important way to cover the course. That is uncover. So online delivery. The delivery is relatively simple. In case you have the content. What is the content? Well, it could be a video. It could be a text. The question that remains is how to connect with the class. I mean, somebody says, well, a student appear to be there, but they may not be there. They can always go. But we have seen if somebody, how many people are present, this particular meeting that we are having, we can actually know from the data on the top. Yes, there's so many people are attending. It also tells you how many people are going out. It also tells. But the question that remains is how important it is. How important it is that everybody is supposed to be attentive in the class? If you have a class of 300 sitting in front of you, are we sure that everybody is listening to the teacher? I mean, if it is a small class, yes, you can point it out. If it's a large class, you don't exactly know. So basically, it's thermodynamics. If there is interest, people will be listening. If the whole thing is not so interesting, people will not be listening. There is a need-based system. That's what we call thermodynamics. Things always flow down to the lowest energy state. And how does it matter, for example? In case somebody doesn't want to learn the way where the moment you're talking, they want to learn the night, how does it matter? That's what we do. Something which we call as the e-pedagogy. What is this? It's not really different from the other pedagogy, actually. But there has to be a systematic way to know exactly what we want to do. So I think we've been talking about, as teachers also, but in engineering, for example, we've probably in the school education has been done. The learning objective of the course. Are we sure that we clearly know exactly what we want to do? This is, let's say, in the last 3 lectures, or in the next 3 lectures, or the whole course? Are we very sure about it? Do we have answers to questions such as he or she, as a learner, would be able to do what action, like design, solve, derive? Have we asked these questions ourselves that at the end of my work, the people, the student, the learner would be able to do this? Are we sure about it? In case we are, then we are on the right path. So similarly, we may have to ask the question, once I upload these 3 videos for this particular week, what I do expect from the students. If it is clear, then the life will be easy. That's what is the learning objectives. Similarly, and they should be defined actually, the learning objectives obviously help the students to focus, help the teachers to plan, and finally help to evaluate and certify. I mean, sometimes what happens, well, I'll ask a question, nobody in the class has answered. I mean, how could they answer? Did you expect them to answer it initially? Were you working towards that so that they can answer this question? Or did you announce it that I'm expecting some answers which I'm not going to teach directly, but I still want you to think? So this has become much more relevant in the new environment because we are not face to face. So although the student can always ask, what do you expect from me to learn? Maybe the student doesn't want to ask. You actually specify. So there's a taxonomy for teaching learning. E-taxonomy also is something similar. Like you teach something which requires only remembering, some definitions, symbols, understanding, a higher level, applying the knowledge, still higher level, then analyzing all the data, still higher level, evaluating different designs, different systems, different processes, and saying, well, this is better. And finally, your aim could be that the person should be able to create himself, design himself a new engine, a new fabric, a new fiber, a new garment, which will have various kinds of things. So the question is, do we use it? In the new system, it will help if we are quite sure as to what I want the student to do. The e-pedagogy and the e-models obviously give opportunity. First of all, they are open and flexible. They actually believe that you can teach a little bit, you can teach more. You can teach today, you can teach tomorrow. They can learn today, they can learn tomorrow. Distributed learning, for example, something you do today, something you do later, or some other people are learning themselves, the students are learning by themselves. There are 2 different instructors, 3 different instructor collaborators, they are doing certain things, learning differently, and some people are learning faster, the others can learn slowly. Allow knowledge building communities, so the communities themselves answer the questions which are raised. That helps. Strategies the teachers can utilize, for example, if are we doing collaborative approaches, we can have articulation, reflection, thinking, role playing, that whatever you could do can be done, exploration, ask them to, well, tomorrow we will probably like to work on this, can you just find out as to what is happening in this area. Problem solving, of course, can be one of the ways in which people remain interested in what is going to happen. So everything that you can do in a real classroom can be achieved in a virtual class as well. Various technologies, synchronous, asynchronous communication tools are available, hypermedia, multimedia tools are available, web authoring tools are available today, course management system, learning management system are also available. And teacher, therefore, can utilize some of these, all of them, to make sure that his or her communication with the students is more effective. Large classes, how do we handle them? It's difficult anyway. What teachers have been doing in the large classes is that they have been experimenting, pair, share, pose question groups, demonstration, case studies, role play, challenging problems, they design problems, focus on some content, think about thinking. All those approaches are there. They can bring some videos also there. All of this is possible online. For example, when we started this conference, we saw the video of the Saraswati Vandana. That means you can actually share what you want to share. You can embed. For example, in my presentation, I could have embedded a certain video which would play from my screen, you will see to everyone. So theoretically, whatever you could do can be done. This question always is an interesting question. Synchronous or asynchronous? Delivery. I am wanting to give. What is happening just now is synchronous. That means I am speaking, people are listening, maybe interesting it is, maybe it is not interesting, but this is synchronous. So teaching can also be done synchronous, with the whole class is sitting and you are giving a lecture from 10 to 11. So synchronous basically is the real-time collaboration. Collaboration means that when in education technology parlance, we talk about not teaching, learning just the student and teacher. We say collaboration in the sense that we are also collaborating. They are asking questions, we are giving them answers, we are working around. So it's like share screen, play and share, audio files, text, PPTs. Yes, of course, body language can be seen. I don't know whether you are able to see me, but yes, you can see that. That's good. You feel good in the synchronous system. If you are attentive. If you're sleeping, of course, you don't see anything. Class notes remain with the learner. This becomes the con. Not a good thing. Or internet fails. Like in the beginning of my start of the topic, the technology somehow, I'm not saying technology failed, but the people who wanted to use technology failed, like me. Or internet fail, which you may have experienced with time, then the session becomes a problem. We have been taking a lot of online courses, from Delhi to Ethiopia and so on and so forth. And a 1 hour class meant about 1.5 hours preparation in the beginning, and it could extend to 1.5 hours during the evening, because anytime the connection goes long, it could go off, and the student in Ethiopia may not at least see, hear what the teacher was saying in Delhi. So that becomes an issue. But the asynchronous, what does it mean is that you have some material already generated, a video or a text or a PDF, and you have already shared it with them. The student, the learner can download whenever they feel like. If that happens, then they can learn anytime at any place. Don't have to be present at 10 to 11. Integrate with different media and tools of various types, LMS. Yes, it can be done, and you can present it in a manner in which you want to present. I am presenting only 2 lectures today or three lectures this week and 2 assignments. They'll start at this time, they will end at that time. All that I can do. More time for reflection. You see, this is the most important part of learning. It becomes learning centric. For example, in every class, there you might find there are 20% students which are not getting good grades. They call it the bottom of the pack. But they are as good, they were as much interested in learning. I hope if that's the situation, then this particular thing says, well, it doesn't matter. I missed the first lecture at that time. I can now learn, go back and learn again, hear it again, and maybe actually become more inquisitive and ask a very good question. Teacher, you said you repeated this particular thing 3 times, but it doesn't make sense to me. But once you have lectured and gone in a class, the teacher has done whatever he had to do. The student had learned the way he could learn or she could learn, noted the way she could learn. Whatever they could write it down in the notes is what is available to them as to what the teacher meant. More opportunity for students to share multiple perspectives. They can share themselves that this is what the teacher said. What do you think about it? Limitation could be no immediate feedback. For example, if I said something and suddenly immediately you ask a question, yeah, of course that possibility may not be there, but you can still ask a question. Not immediate, but the feedback can be there. Through social presence, yes, that of course we feel as if we are talking to a screen. We feel as if nobody is with us. Well, it could be not so interesting sometimes, but from learning point of view is important. Why should I learn? Because somebody is going to ask a question. Why should I learn? Because somebody will give me a job. If those objectives are clear as to why I'm learning, then we learn. That's thermodynamics. And one may feel that we are less engaged, but that's not true. If you want to engage them more, every time you do a 2-hour lecture, then you can have a 3rd-hour session, which could be live. Which could be live and synchronous. You may find that the number of people who are attending that may not be as large as you wanted them to be, but still you can record like you're recording now. You can share with them. They will definitely learn because it is from the horse's mouth. So my take is most of the delivery should be asynchronous. The student bandwidth issues will be solved. The teacher's bandwidth issue will be solved. Learn whenever you feel. Somebody is a late riser. Somebody likes to get up early in the morning. Whatever, doesn't matter. You can do things. Of course, there is a time frame within which you say, well, you should have learned by this time because tomorrow I'm going to be asking you some questions or solving some problems with them. So as I said, what can you share? You can share text, video, both, or links. This question has been asked. Should the videos lecture should be large? That is 1 hour, half an hour, 15 minutes, what? It doesn't really matter actually. You can have short videos, a topic just in 15 minutes you have covered, finish it off, no problem. You can load more. You can, instead of doing 3 hours per week of 3 lectures, you can have 6 lectures of half an hour. Or you can have 12 lectures of 15 minutes. If you think, so one topic, another topic, small things available to the students. Yes, plagiarism, etc. are some of the things when you ask for an assignment and so on and so forth. People can have copy some of the things, but you want to teach them. You can use some softwares. Various types of softwares will be available. Again, as a tool to the teacher. You ask for an assignment, you can check it whether it's been copied or not copied. So the current concept in the online business should be, I believe, is a flip class mode. The paradigm shift is this. So you record before, create the content before, share it before, then go to the live sim and interact, collaborate. That's what it is. Of course, new courses can be done. Backloggers, students will definitely be helped by these kind of things. And of course, we can do CEP, QIP programs the way we are doing. It's all possible. Everything It allows more discussion because students can discuss among themselves and answer questions, or they can be collected by a teaching assistant and then teacher can answer the questions very remotely. It can be done. Yes, the major challenge, of course, is the hands-on. The projects have to be hands-on. Some of the labs have to be hands-on, and that experience, to some extent, can be obtained by virtual labs, which could be video-based labs, where actual experiments has been recorded correctly. Simulation-based things where student himself or herself can feed different data and get different kind of results. Actuation, where actually you start a button, push a button through your laptop somewhere and the machine starts somewhere else. It's also possible, and not so much scale, and the cost, of course, can become a little high. But in some cases, it can be done as well. This has been tried, and this can be done. Projects wherever it is required a good amount of experimentation, then of course online has to become a hybrid kind of a mode. At some stage, somewhere you could go and actually learn, do hands-on. The next challenge, the big challenge, is the examination. So the NPTEL, for example, has when the MOOCs types of things are done, they are done proctored. We are all used to proctored examination, where students are sitting somewhere or working on a system and somebody is watching them. If you say, well, there is nobody to watch them, the life becomes very, very different. I think teaching and pedagogy, although complex and require a lot of attention from the teachers, examination is a bigger challenge than delivery and teaching. This time in the April and May, some exams which were scheduled could not be held simply because of the COVID. Because you could not collected so many people at one particular place, and so proctored system could not take place. New challenge. New education policy, or what we call National Education Policy 2020. Well, policies keep changing. And therefore, the way you do award degrees will also change. For example, very recently means about 2 months back, degree program in programming and data science, completely online, with almost anybody who wants, or beyond. Age no bar, background no bar. You register, if you pass, you pass, you don't pass, you don't pass. So you have control somewhere. And at some stage, I think people have been saying that mark sheet has become the pressure sheet. That's what at some stage PM Modi has also said. Education policy should work on, are we totally exam centric or are we learning centric? So evaluation challenge, for example, proctored. Can we have things that need not be proctored? Feedback mechanisms, do we have? How are the exams used? What is the role of the exam, for example? Is it a feedback to give feedback to the student teacher that something happening right or not? Or is it to give grades and scores? Can we do more continuous evaluation, short-term, valued test quizzes? Some of them could be auto-evaluated. Open book, if you think that somebody is definitely going to go to the net, somebody is going to open the books while you are not watching them. So what do you do? Right? Can you create different kind of exam and questions where they are open-ended? And of course, you can, at very, very, most of you would have also done it, that we had MTech examination of the, for example, projects online, face-to-face, PhD interviews, face-to-face. So all kind of things, all the not exactly in the classroom or in the lab, but actually virtually. Setting up the question paper becomes tough. When it becomes online, it's almost as if it is open to public. When you were giving some questions which were within your class, they were between you and your students. But once you open it up in an e-environment, they become public. If there are various paper sets have been made, what is the variation level? How do you standardize them so that one set is equal to the other set? Produce multiple set questions, multiple questions in random order being given to the students, multiple values of the same question being given in the random order, auto evaluation, or evaluation post-exam. It's also possible people can upload scanned material which the teacher can, in a normal way, go and evaluate. Now, this question, I think a lot of us have been wanting to know the answer. Who is responsible for fairness in the exam? You always write in red ink. Unfair means are punishable. Of course, you punish. Is the teacher always responsible for this? Or we can make students also equal stakeholders? Well, these policies may have to be, this mindset obviously will have to be changed in time. Objective of the examination, is it pass fail? We may have to revisit. If it is learning, then things will be different. If it is only pass fail, then we have to have different strategies. To do more efficient teaching learning through the online processes, we need some support. So the teacher is feeling like Amitabh Bachchan, right? You're talking to a camera. That fellow talks to the camera only. There's no audience. He assumes there is an audience. How do you feel? I think in the last 6 months you've done that. How do you feel? So we need support. Tools like software. Various kinds of softwares are available. You may have used some of them. Imparters, Gradescope, Moodle, Teams, Meet, Zoom, where you can create, your material, learning material, record it, text it, type it, scan it, and do what have you want to do. What else do you want? Of course, you want the spirit. Yes, I am not bored. I have no student in front of me, but I am still very excited about it. I think there are students who are listening to me. Although, for example, in this case, it's quite possible, as I was saying, people leaving, also I know who was left it, but doesn't matter. And you don't get depressed because people leaving. In a real class, if teacher gives the freedom and says all the doors are open, those who want to go out, they go out. And let's say teacher also found that there are only 10% are left in the class. You can be very happy, you can be sad also. So whatever you do. So the spirit is very important, that when you go to the class, when you record your lecture, you are as spirited. And I'm not talking about the alcohol, right? The hardware, yes, you require a PC and a camera, which is of course available everywhere. A laptop, which obviously has a camera, or a tablet, which, for example, has a stylus, and through the stylus you can always write something. You can make graphs. You can make whatever you want to do in the class, and see and interact. So whiteboard, blackboards are available. Of course, you would need a microphone and a little lighting, which should be there on the face of the teacher who's recording. A relatively soundproof environment, because noise becomes an important thing. A lot of time when the interactions are going on in a meeting or something, we find children crying in the neighborhood. Doesn't really look good. That much we can avoid. And there should be enough backup, in the sense that power backup, UPS or any something, so that while you are doing things, all while you are interacting live, the battery should not just go off and you should say that I can't interact. It's possible, it may not happen, but we should be prepared. Infrastructure requirements, of course, the college and institute must invest in infrastructure now for the community, whether it's hardware, servers, laptops, tablets, any other bandwidth issues, software and bandwidth, they must be licensed. Licensed software should be bought, which should be available to the community. Learners also need to update their versions of software. I think I'll stop here. We took a little more time than was fine. Otherwise planned, simply because we lost some time.
Thank you, sir.
The
Thanks a
initial
lot.
time when we did not know how to.
Sir, thank you. Thanks a
reconnect.
lot,
I
sir.
hope you could hear me while this was going on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I could not hear you, so there was no noise. I was very happy about it.
Sir,
Things haven't happened completely. We still have miles to go, and we cannot stop. Sure, in the next one year or so, almost all teachers from India, I'm not talking about India, I think the whole world actually, would be talking differently. Because some success has already been seen, and with a little bit of an improvement, you can succeed much more than that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, can we take up some questions, Kushal Sen, sir, before we end?
So,
Can it?
there we are.
Okay, sir.
I'm sure you're looking for a break and lunch, but in case you have anything that you would like me to talk about, I'm okay.
Okay, sir. Like there is one question from the participant that how group learning can be achieved in online studies. How group learning can be achieved in online studies.
So, Yamini, is everything okay?
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible? Like I was taking one question from the participant.
Can anybody hear or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
I think he is not able to hear you, Mother, probably.
But am I audible
Hello?
to you all?
Yes, sir.
You are audible to me.
So, if you have questions in the text, there's a thing that how group learning and group learning can be achieved online in a study. Yes, if there are students in your class and you know them, if you know them well, then you can make very informed groups and say, well, these kind of problems I'm going to give you to this particular group, and the other problem I'm giving to the other group. And based on your things, you will present what are the solutions that you are, for example, giving to a problem that I've given. For example, somebody says, I want to make an efficient engine which is less energy consuming, or another one is saying, or less pollution. Independently, they can start solving in the groups, and they would be able to then share it either online as such or make a presentation, and others can comment also. Therefore, there can be a good amount of learning which can take place in the groups. So role play can be done. So who will decide? Obviously, the teacher plans that this is what I'm going to do. Now the question I see is Mushahid Ali Shamsi has asked, when virtual learning is efficient and cost effective compared to physical learning, then why institutions charge the same fees? While on the other hand, parents' expenses were increased in arranging resources of the online classes. Please comment. Yeah. So I'm sure these are also some of the challenges, and I think as you are raising, somebody else also is raising the same thing. The schools as well as the institutions, whenever it would happen in the same mode, people will obviously have balancing act. Balancing act. No doubt the teacher also has to work harder than, for example, if I just take my chalk and talk and say I remember everything and go to the class and start. But if you have to do the preparation for this, you will have to work harder. Fees part, of course, is something which has been a part of discussion, and I don't think we can solve this issue here. So one question which has come is, how can we conduct online examinations or quizzes in this pandemic condition in an efficient manner? Well, it depends on how hard you are prepared to work and what kind of software do you have. So we do have actually open source software called Moodle. This is a learning management system, allows you to upload your material for your students. You can put assignments there. When you put quiz, it asks you quiz, whether you want a spontaneous quiz, you want a randomized quiz, you want to take the questions from a bank, that you have a bank of 100 questions and you want to give only 5 questions to them. You can, it allows you also, for example, to make a quiz where a numerical problem is there and let's say velocity is there and the time is there, values, and you are asking for something called an acceleration at the end of the day. Then it will say which velocity, you can give a range of velocities, you can give a range of times, and these values also will go differently to different students, and therefore copying them becomes a difficult thing. But this requires good amount of preparation by the teacher from the beginning. Like the exam is on, let's say, 30th of September. Theoretically, this person has finished everything called a question making and banks on the 15th of September. On that day, he only releases them. I see a last question, Mr. Ganesh Jha, for example, talking about practical work and lab activity, result analysis, how it is achieved in online mode. So I always say that if you have to go to the lab to do an experiment, yes, that cannot be done online. Therefore, a hybrid model has to be used. However, if the teacher has created a simulator where, let's say, if you change the concentration of certain things, a certain product, the value of a certain product is going to be like this, which is, let's say, based on certain criteria. Either it is a very classical formula based thing or it is empirical based systems he had created or she had created. The student actually can have a feel, and depends on what you do. For example, how would the graph look like when it becomes these values change? And you may also have situations being created where differential equations and other kind of things are used, where you feel if the values change like this, it no more has a peak or it goes beyond a certain limit. People have created virtual labs as well in not every course possible, where if you give different values of current or different values of the voltages to the system, then the system actually burns out in a sound and video. You can see, oh my God, what has happened. Actually, it is not in a simulation part. You see, it becomes much more difficult for the teacher. Otherwise, if a project has to be done experimentally, then obviously you have to be in the lab. Hybrid is the only way. Yes, there are some softwares which claim, there is a question that some software allows you to conduct online examination. Yes, there are software which say that the student should keep looking at the camera of his laptop always, more or less, and not go anywhere else. Otherwise, it will be considered not good, or his postures and his behavior is being monitored. In case that is there, it can be used. But they are not foolproof. All right, they're not foolproof. We have seen problems in our examination. For example, if you give a question in advance, the person solves the questions. After solving the question, he writes the questions, he takes the WhatsApp image and shares it with every other student. Right? Then what do we do? So there can be problems. Let us say our objective itself, why I am taking the examination, changes. My objective is not to evaluate and give marks. My also objective is to make sure the fellow has learned, and that's what I actually make sure in my specific objective, learning objective, that I am interested that you learn this. He also knows that, and we create environments where Evaluation is done by participation, by speaking, by doing various kinds of things which could be possible, and doing short evaluation, not a 40-mark paper or a 3-hour final exam. It may be every exam is just 1 hour. Smaller quizzes are just 15 minutes. And so you'll find that something you wanted them to learn, they have learned and they're gone. So I hope there are no more questions coming up. I hope you've learned, and I would like you to go back and go for the next session. Thank you very much. See you maybe later after lunch for
Thank you, sir.
another session which will be, I'll be sharing.
Thank
you
you,
very much.
sir.
All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir, for your insightful talk on online education, which is, of course, the need of the hour and current scenario. And I personally wait for you to share other crucial happenings on the same day. So I really personally like this. And of course, one crucial happening being your valuable talk for the day. So thank you once again, sir, for joining us and enlightening us with your impressive talk, which is very apt in the present scenario. Now, may I request Gurpratap to take over?
Thank you, ma'am. Now, moving ahead, I request Dr. Ken Chatterjee, sir, to please deliver a vote of thanks for both the keynote speaker for their valuable and informative sessions. I request Ken Chatterjee, sir, to please unmute yourself.
Good morning or good noon to all of you. Thank you, Kothari sir and Kusal sir, for your enlightening talks. And I am sure that all the participants and delegates have enriched their knowledge. We, of course, ourselves also. So, respected Professor Dr. G.K. Tyagi, our OD Director, our most valued invited key speakers, Dr. V.K. Kothari, retired emeritus Professor IIT Delhi, Dr. Kusal Sen, Professor IIT Delhi, Dr. Deepti Gupta, Professor IIT Delhi, Dr. Binoy Midha, Professor NIT Jalandhar, Dr. Parikshit Goswami, Professor University of Huddersfield, UK, Dr. R.K. Nayak, Professor RMIT Vietnam, our distinguished speakers, delegates and participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of TIT&S and the Department of Fashion and Apparel Engineering, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all of you for sparing your valuable time and gracing the occasion despite of your busy.
Okay, I'll join.
I extend my heartfelt thanks to our director, Professor Dr. G.K. Tyagi, for sparing his time and grace the occasion despite of his busy schedule and enlighten us about the recent areas of textiles to be explored during his welcome address. Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing your views. A big thank you to Dr. V.K. Kothari for his analysis towards his talk on the importance of innovations for prosperity and growth of textile and clothing industry. His deliberation on the topic is quite relevant to the theme of the conference and useful too for all of us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We are all inspired by your great words. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Kusal Sen for his explanation on the topic of online, that is the online education challenges and opportunities. We are really enriched our knowledge from his deliberation towards online education, which is quite useful in today's context considering COVID-19 regime. It will immensely benefit our all faculty members and in taking classes effectively and efficiently. The participants will also be benefited from your deliberations about the resources availability for online courses like MOOC, NOC or NPTEL and so on. I may like to express our sincere thanks to all the speakers and delegates for participating in the conference and in making the occasion a grand success. Thanks to all of them. I am also very grateful to all the faculty and staff members of TIT&S Bhiwani for extending their support and help in making the function a grand success. I also would like to acknowledge our gratitude to the authorities of AICT for allowing us to conduct the conference as well as for providing the funds for the same. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to the administrative head, finance manager, and other administrative and technical staff for the perfect logistic support and guidance they have extended to all of us at this occasion. I also extend our thanks to all HODs and also to the whole IT department for their enormous cooperation in the organization of this event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling months ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues of FE department, specifically Dr. Jamini Jhanji and Dr. Seli, who know their job and are result oriented. Thanks are also due to the hard work of the dedicated and sincere students who work day and night for conducting this conference. Last but not the least, we are thankful to the press and media persons for covering the whole event. Thank you very much for all of you. Thank you. Good Pratap.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a nice vote of thanks. It was a pleasure to have a vote of thanks from your side. Now, I request the participants should join their respective virtual rooms A and B. Clickable links in the schedule as per given you on the mail. As per their scheduled presentations, or in case of attendees, as per area of interest, you can join virtual room A and virtual room B for your respective technical sessions. And I would request participants, the attendance and feedback in either of the session will be mandatory and will be shared during your respective sessions.